Okay, so we are now live. All right, everybody. I am very excited about today's Tuesday topic. Um, it is a special edition, you might say, of Topic Tuesday. I am going to be doing my first interview with someone, so please give me a little grace. So today I am interviewing the lovely Noël Jones. Noël is a learning designer who was diagnosed with and medicated for ADHD 7 years ago. But medication only helped her struggle for longer spans of time. It really didn't do anything to alleviate the struggle itself. And in a recent assessment, she learned that she has 2 binocular vision disorders underlying her ADHD that had gone undetected since childhood. And she also learned that these types of vision disorders can coincide with or are misdiagnosed and medicated as ADHD because they present similar symptoms. So Noël is joining us today because she doesn't want anyone else with ADHD to continue struggling unnecessarily for years the way she has. So Noël, thank you very much for being here. I want to try and see if I can get you onto there we go. Let's see here. Share here. On there. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see you now. Let me see here. Okay, so tell me, can you tell everybody briefly sort of how you came to discover that it wasn't just ADHD for you?
Sure, and thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here. During the lockdown, during COVID, I was part of an online ADHD group led by an ADHD coach, and it was sort of a group support system where everyone had their few minutes to sort of say what their wins were and what they were still struggling with that month. And everyone would tell their story, and all the heads in the Zoom would nod and be really supportive and say, oh, yes, yes, me too. Don't worry, you're not alone. Hang in there. And it got around to me and I said the same thing. Yeah, oh, me too, me too. And then I started talking about other things I struggle with, assuming that everyone else did too, because we all had ADHD. And as I started to describe those things, all of the nodding heads stopped nodding and started moving side to side. And the coach said, Noël, you might be grappling with something in addition to ADHD that the others aren't struggling with. And I was just shocked. I was floored because I had assumed when I was diagnosed 7 years ago that I had the answer. And I was taking all the steps, and I had medicine now to help with focus and concentration. And it had helped in the sense that I was able to concentrate longer and be more productive. I got my master's degree on top of a full-time job. That wasn't easy, but it made it possible. And so it hadn't occurred to me that I could have more than one issue to resolve. And beyond that, I was just blown away because I'm a big researcher. I love research. I love diving in and finding out everything I can about something. But how do you do that when you don't know what it is or what it's called, or even what keywords to begin searching on? So I was overwhelmed, but began randomly Googling on different symptoms. And it took a while. It took months for me to finally land on vision disorders as a possibility. And then I was finally assessed about a month and a half ago.
Okay. And I remember you told me how many doctors and how many states have like given you these eye tests and like none of them caught it?
Right. So this disorder was missed by optometrists across 6 different states, across 50 years, and vision therapy has been around longer than I have.
Mhm.
It's slightly more known about now, but still not familiar enough to the general public that they would seek it out necessarily, or even have it referred to them as an option before surgery. So it really floored me when I realized that the person who finally diagnosed me was an optometrist. I
Mhm.
assumed that Dr. Frederick must, be somewhere else in the hierarchy, that she must have some, additional degrees or credentials or status. She's a developmental optician, which is important. But in general, she's an optometrist, and some optometrists look for vision disorders and others don't, because it's not part of an optometrist training in school. So they are pretty much just assessing people for acuity and trying to give you the right prescription that's going to bring your eyesight to 2020. But
Mhm.
vision disorders, you can have perfect 2020 vision and have myriad issues going wrong with how the eyes and brain communicate and interpret vision. And it can cause you to struggle in school, struggle with work, struggle with daily life. And because not so many people know about vision disorders and vision therapy, people can live a really long time before they find out. So I'm excited to finally have the answer and to be immersed in vision therapy right now. I'm learning so much every day and making progress, and it's exciting and interesting. It's fascinating, actually. But yeah, 6 states.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
And over that much time, it's like insane, right? Um, yeah. Um, so they don't usually, so optometrists don't usually find this because um they're not really looking for it, right?
right.
Okay.
So,
Um,
so an optometrist will sometimes notice a vision disorder if it's visually obvious. For instance, if a child has crossed eyes, or
mhm.
what's known as a lazy eye, if it's visually obvious, they will obviously notice that and often refer parents to take their children to ophthalmologists, who are surgeons, to cosmetically correct the positioning of their eyes,
Mhm.
to correct that alignment. But that doesn't retrain the eyes and the brain to work together differently to interpret that information. So children and adults can go through surgery and have their alignment corrected and still struggle with vision disorders. So
That is just
it's
so
really,
fascinating because you would think that if they like fixed a lazy eye, right, that somehow that would correct that, but that's not what happens. That's so interesting.
right, because our eyeballs are moved by ocular muscles behind them,
Mhm.
and our brains are telling those ocular muscles what to do. So when you're in there cutting muscles and cutting little tendons and things, you can line things up, but um, it's a very tricky thing for the brain and 2 separate eyes to coordinate to deliver an interpretation of the
Mhm.
world around you um, in a way that is like most people, in a way that doesn't cause you any sort of issues.
Okay. So, um, so can you describe for everybody sort of like how your vision disorder showed up for you? So like one of the things you mentioned to me when we first talked about this was that you really struggle to read, for example, certain kind of forms like financial forms. So
Mhm.
like how does it show up for you? And is that kind of is that typical for people with these kind of vision disorders, or is it kind of different for everybody?
Thank you for asking the last part of that question, because that's a really important distinction to make. There are so many ways that the eyes and the brain cooperate to create vision that everyone's vision is truly unique. So there are many, many different kinds of vision disorders that someone can have. And just because one person has a vision disorder doesn't mean that they have the same thing going on, the same struggle going on as someone else with a vision disorder. So it's really important to be careful not to hear that someone has a vision disorder and say, oh, my friend has that too, or my daughter has that too, because it could be a completely different scenario. In my case, it's hard to tell. I can't even tell when I look in the mirror, but my eyes are not correctly aligned. They go slightly out, a tiny bit out, and one of them goes a tiny bit more out than the other. But it's so incremental that none of my optometrists saw it. And as long as they could give me a prescription that made me see 20/20, they thought I was fine. I would read the lowest line on the chart and they'd say, you're good to go. And I would take my glasses and continue struggling. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't even know how to understand that myself, or much less describe it to anyone else. So for me, what that means is that I have lived my entire life seeing the world in double vision, but without realizing it. And that is something
That
that
is crazy.
it confuses a lot of people. How could you not know that you're seeing in double vision? But there are many different ways that double vision manifests, and it's not necessarily in the classic style that you would see depicted in a movie when someone's drunk at a party and seeing
Yeah.
two equal doubles of everything. Oftentimes it appears more as a ghost of an image or a word.
Mhm.
So you have these streams of information going in two different eyes, and one of them looks more solid than the other. And part of that can be because of suppression, which is something that my right eye does. My right eye will interrupt the signal. It'll just shut off the signals to my brain, and it will flick it on and off, almost like a kid playing with a light switch. And that will cause the double image to be see-through. So one of them appears solid and one of them that's overlapping a little looks see-through. And then my brain tells me that the see-through one isn't real. There's only one there. Just deal with that one. And so since that developed in my child's mind, and I grew up with it my entire life, it was my normal, and I didn't even notice that I was struggling to focus or that I was seeing a double image. Every time I went to the eye doctor, I would put my head in the machine and he'd ask me to look at a chart across the room, and I would see double images and I would force them together. But I always did that. So I never thought of it. And because I've read the line correctly, he never noticed, or she along the way never noticed that I paused before answering. And during that pause, I was actually forcing a double image into a single image. Another problem that I have with my eyes is that they don't team and track properly. When we decide that we're going to look at a tree or a lamp across the room, our brain tells our eyes to go at the exact same time and point to that object. And our brain translates those two streams into one image for us to understand. And my eyes land in kind of a 1-2 punch. They don't land at exactly the same time. And the other thing that they have trouble with is tracking. So for instance, when you get to the end of a line in a book and your eyes have to jump to the beginning of the next line, you're jumping over blank space and lots of letters. And people who read normally don't even think about it, but they land in the perfect place to begin the next
Mhm.
line. My eyes will sometimes land a line or two too high or too low. And then that, of course, will be very confusing because the line I'm reading won't make sense. And so then I have to go find where I was, reread that line, and make it connect to the proper line. And as you can imagine, between the focusing the double vision and trying to track and having to read things over and over, it both exhausts my eyes and brain, which makes me fall asleep very quickly when I read, and just slows me down in general. All of this comes together and equals really slow reading. So
Mhm.
I've always read at a high level. Even as a child, I was reading at an adult level, but very slowly, so slowly that on assessment tests every year, I would usually get 99th percentile across the board, but in reading comprehension, and sometimes in some of the other categories that involved a lot of reading, I would get a slightly lower score, like a 97, but only because I ran out of time to read the
Mhm.
questions. But then there was one category every year called research materials that had graphs and forms and charts and maps and things like that. And every year I got a 45. And so my parents would joke, because this was in the 70s and the 80s, and they would say, she's just got a little hole in her brain right there. And in a way, they were right. But to the point of your question, about people having different vision disorders, I have a friend, for instance, whose vision disorder is that she saw in 2D for most of her life until she got vision therapy and began seeing in 3D in her 30s. So I obviously don't have that problem. I've always had depth perception, and she hasn't had my issues of
Mhm.
seeing in double all the time. Um, so vision disorders, there are a wide array of vision disorders that someone can have, and a wide array of tools and exercises in vision therapy that will help that customized need. So it's really important for people. I know it can be tempting to think, oh, I just want to do it DIY and I'll just get some of the tools and some of the charts and I'll just do it at home. But it's really important to be careful about that, because you might be exercising the muscles that don't need exercising and failing to exercise the ones that do, and you could actually be aggravating your challenge.
Making it worse. Yeah, exactly. And it just, from what I know, having ADHD myself, but also just working with people who have ADHD, we do tend to have this tendency to want to do it on our own. Like I can handle it on my own. Like we have this thing to prove sometimes. And I'm not entirely sure why we do that to ourselves, but we do. So that's a really good thing to point out is, please like go with professional help to do this. So can you explain to like how the overlap in the symptoms between this and ADHD, in terms of if somebody has this but it's misdiagnosed as ADHD, like what tends to show up as the signs?
Right. So I'll share the symptoms that are in common, and then the symptoms that I have that are not about ADHD. So
Right.
high distractibility is one, because if your eyes and brain are getting exhausted while reading, for instance, your mind will make up any reason possible to take an eye break, but you don't know that that's why you're doing it. So you're reading and you really want to focus and read, and suddenly you look out the window and say, oh, a bird, a squirrel, or you notice someone jogging by, and you keep doing it over and over. And part of it is also, in my case, because reading, all of that focus will make me sleepy. So to avoid falling asleep at the end of a paragraph, I'll look around, or I'll get up and walk around, maybe wash the dishes or something. So
Yeah.
distractibility is one, and along with it is difficulty focusing and concentrating. So these are some of the top 3 symptoms for ADHD, right? Is
Right.
easily distracted, having difficulty focusing, and not being able to concentrate for long periods of time. And since most doctors who assess learning disorders are not trained developmental optometrists,
Right.
if you come in, whether it's a child or an adult, if you come in and you exhibit really strong symptoms that correlate to ADHD, you're probably going to be diagnosed with ADHD. And you might have some therapies recommended, or you might be prescribed stimulants or both. And so that's just something really important to keep in mind as we move through this conversation. The other symptoms that I was experiencing, or the way that it impacted my life, is that forms, anything that is technical writing that involves boxes, lines, big gaps of blank space that break things up, like an instruction manual, like an unfamiliar website or an unfamiliar software interface. These are even harder to read than regular prose. So reading a book, reading a novel is challenging enough and slow enough, but in terms of bank statements, credit card statements, job applications, grant proposals, I mean, there are so many different times, filling out medical paperwork, paying bills, reading your bills and paying bills. There are so many instances where being able to read forms and technical writing is really critical to daily life. And so if that's causing you a constant struggle, if preparing your taxes, my friends like to say, well, no one likes their taxes. That's not a thing. But if preparing your taxes feels near impossible and you are frustrated to tears as you try to make sense of it all and put it together every year, you might want to consider getting a comprehensive eye exam to see if that might be an issue, especially if it extends to other things. Like, for instance, I don't drive. I have had a driver's license in the past when I lived in communities that didn't involve a lot of big, scary, busy highways and that sort of thing. But it was so stressful to try to read road signs on the highway in a moving vehicle when my eyes do not telescope well. So they do
Oh, I
not
bet that was
maintain
so
their
stressful.
focus well as you're moving. So you're trying to make last minute decisions on a highway with other cars moving around you, and you have to get into another lane and get off of an exit ramp without hurting yourself or anyone else. It was just too stressful. So when I moved to Chicago, I just let my driver's license go. But the funny thing is, until I got diagnosed, I had no idea that that was the problem. I just thought I didn't like driving.
Yeah.
Driving is stressful. I like big cities because they offer mass transit, and I'm an environmentalist, I have this whole narrative in my mind as to why I didn't like driving. It never really occurred to me that I was struggling to keep road signs in focus. So this has been a big revelation to me, and
Yeah.
continues to be a huge revelation to me. But navigating, for instance, timetables in an airport or a train station, something like that, it can just be torture. So any travel that I've managed to do, and I have traveled, has been through sheer determination and through an incredible amount of stress, because I was just determined. I
Yeah.
love languages. I love other cultures. I wanted to see the world. And so I put myself through it, and there were a lot of tears.
Oh, I bet.
But not
And going
everyone
back,
experiences that.
well, and going back to what you were saying about like the stress of like having to pay bills and the financial stuff, I have to assume that that led to procrastinating doing it, right? Because it was like literally, kind of painful for you, which also feeds into the ADHD thing
Right.
too, because that is also a very common trait for people with ADHD. So it's very easy to see where there's so much overlap in terms
Exactly.
of the signs and what and getting things and getting crossed in the crosshairs of that. So
Right.
so you talk about vision therapy. So does vision therapy, can it cure your disorders? Can it cure all of them, or is it just can you kind of explain that a little bit?
Sure. So because there are so many different kinds of vision disorders, I can't speak to all of them, but what my optometrist told me is that vision therapy can alleviate almost all vision disorders, but certain ones can be cured completely and others just might be greatly alleviated. So it was a 2-part exam that happened over 2 different days. And, I was warned after the first day to not get my hopes up too high, because she didn't know yet whether or not my disorders were the kind that were curable or whether they would just be able to ease my struggle. And either way, I was game. So I just told myself, don't think they're going to cure it. They're just going to ease your struggle, and that's going to make a lot more possible. And so on the second day, at the end of the exam, I just burst into tears. But she said it's curable.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So how long did they tell you that would take?
She said that it can take up to 9 months to cure the 2 binocular vision disorders that I have, which is convergence insufficiency, because my eyes are not converging and diverging properly, and also ocular motor dysfunction. So those muscles in the back of the eyeballs need to sort of get a consistent workout to develop the ability to move smoothly and accurately on command. And those are things that can be 100% cured. So it was really just the best news.
Oh, that must have been a huge relief. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what vision therapy entails? Like, what are some things that you do during vision therapy?
Sure. So there are weekly vision therapy appointments with a vision therapist, and there are also assessments along the way that are a cooperation between the vision therapist and the optometrist that diagnoses you. And on a daily basis, or almost daily, they usually advise 5 days a week. You do daily homework of about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what your therapist directs you to do. Usually it's closer to 15 minutes in the beginning, and as your eyes get more practice, then you'll work your way up to 30 minutes. But 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, in between weekly sessions with a vision therapist for anywhere. Some people's vision disorders won't take as long to resolve, and so it might just be a few months, and others can be up to a year or more. And mine are expected to take up to 9 months, but I might get lucky and resolve them sooner. The way my optometrist described it is that at some point in your therapy, your brain figures out that the way that you are training your eyes to work differently is actually easier than the way they've been doing it your entire life. So as soon as your brain sort of catches on that, oh, this is actually easier to get the result I want, it starts happening more automatically. And so the progress in the beginning is slow, and then at some point it sort of picks up speed.
And you start to get the muscle memory, so to speak.
Right. And you start to see actual results. But I actually have a couple of vision therapy.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know you brought a couple things.
So my clinic is Lions Family Eye Care, and they give you a vision therapy kit for homework that is a tote bag. And it has a bunch of different cool tools and toys to work with depending on your particular challenges. So this, for instance, is a Brock string. And I'll move the beads down. It's a long white string that you would pin to the wall at eye level. And you would stand at the end of it and hold it in front of your nose and focus on the different colored beads as you bring them closer to your nose. It's hard to do when it's not tied to a wall, but you're sliding these beads along the string and focusing on them as they come closer to your face and move farther away. And the goal is to be able to keep them in focus and to be able to move smoothly back and forth.
Mhm.
So that's the Brock string. And this one is really fun. This is a long string with a ball on the end. It's called a Marsden ball. Has letters and numbers on the outside, and you toss it over something high like your shower curtain rod in the bathroom,
Okay.
and hang it down at about waist level. And then you wear a patch, and you do it with one eye at a time, and you swing it, and it'll of course make a much wider arc because the string will be
Yeah.
long. It swings back and forth, and the goal is to hold your head still and track it with the eye that isn't behind the patch. And the fascinating thing about the Marsden ball, when my therapist first introduced it to me, is that she said, I want you to track it and let me know if you notice anything. And so she swung it in front of me, and then she said, there, did you notice that? And I said, no, I didn't notice anything. And she said, we're going to do it again. So she swung it again. She said, there. And I said, you mean when I blinked? And she said, you didn't blink. So that was my eye suppressing.
Ah,
My eye was getting tired because my eyes don't track well. My eye was getting tired trying to keep up with the ball. So it was shutting off the impulse and letting my eye see it again when it was farther down the trajectory, to kind of give my eye a little break and still sort of arrive on time. And so that was fascinating. I couldn't believe that I was seeing this little moment of darkness
yeah, that's so
that wasn't the
fascinating.
blink.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I think it's safe to say that you can have ADHD and a vision disorder, right?
Absolutely
But it's also possible that your ADHD may not be ADHD. It could be a vision disorder.
true. And either way, the kinds of things that you're teaching in this group are
Mhm.
super helpful either way, because so many of the results of vision disorders and ADHD are the same, right? We
Yeah.
struggle with distractibility, we struggle with focus and concentration, with procrastination, because if you're dreading, if you know that you don't enjoy something because it's hard and it's always a struggle, it's easy to put it off and put it off and put it off until it's late. And so a lot of those struggles are the same, and a lot of the routines and hacks and methods and project management advice and that sort of thing that are taught in this ADHD group are actually really helpful to people who have vision disorders as well. And
Oh,
I just
good.
wanted to show you that I watched one of your Topic Tuesdays recently, and I got a visual timer. These
Yay!
things, these are magic. I love it. I love it because it ticks away and you see the time passing. And as we know, people with ADHD are time blind. Um,
Yep.
so
And
that
seeing that red get smaller and smaller makes such a big difference. And when you're looking at a digital clock, it doesn't mean anything.
yeah.
It's like you know what time it is, but it's still not like. So, oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Yay.
So it's, I think what's a good idea for anyone with, sorry, it's beeping. Okay. What's a good idea for anyone with ADHD, if you can swing it, is to get a comprehensive eye exam, not a regular eye exam, but a comprehensive eye exam with a developmental optometrist, an optometrist who actually works with vision therapists, understands vision therapy, and will be looking for alignment issues that might not be immediately obvious to everyone.
Mhm.
Because you want to, if you're still struggling, if you've been diagnosed with ADHD and you're taking stimulants and you're getting more done and concentrating longer, but you're still struggling, and it can really make you feel terrible about yourself, because then you feel like you no longer have an excuse, right? This is what I would get upset at myself about. It's like, Noelle, you don't have an excuse. You have a diagnosis now. You have medicine now. There's no excuse for you to not be getting these things done on time and moving these projects forward. And I didn't realize until that group session that I told you about,
Yeah.
that the struggle itself hadn't changed. But
Hmm.
I still had trouble with all of the same things. I was just able to struggle longer. And
Hmm.
so you can feel really bad about yourself if you
Yeah.
don't understand that there's a way to go get assessed and find out if you can either rule out vision disorders or identify vision disorders and get vision therapy. So
Yeah.
I really, really recommend that first exam. The problem is that vision therapy is not covered for adults. There are some insurances that are covering it for kids now, but not
Oh,
for
good.
adults. So it's expensive and out of pocket. But that first exam is only going to be in the neighborhood of $300. And I know that's a lot of money out of pocket for a lot of people too. It certainly was for me, but it was worth it for me to know. And then
Hmm.
once I knew, I was on a mission to get vision therapy any way I could, because
Yeah. Well, because
knowing
it
that it can
completely
go away.
impacts, yeah, it completely impacts the quality of your life. And you and I were just talking before we went on about also the overlap of like how many of us who have late diagnosis ADHD, late life diagnosis of ADHD thought everyone saw the world we did.
Right.
And it wasn't, it's not until like maybe your kid's getting assessed or, somebody says something and you go, wait, you don't do that? Like, there's a thing that happens where you go, oh, I think this isn't typical. Okay. And you just can, you can kind of write off some of it.
Mhm.
But, when you're like spending your whole life with double vision, right? But you think everybody's seeing things the way you do. And what's funny is that when people ask me, well, how come, if your ADHD was so bad, how come you didn't go to a doctor? I actually say, imagine you have bad vision, only you don't know you have bad vision.
Right.
And you're able to cope and create strategies that are good enough so you can function well enough that things that should be red flags are just written off as something else. So it's kind of funny that I use vision as this when you're literally living that. Like that's just crazy to me. So and I can't imagine the disappointment too to have like, that when you first got your ADHD diagnosis and going, oh, finally, like, because we all know that relief of, okay, finally this thing that explains my life. And then for you then to continue to struggle when you're doing all the things that you know to do, that I just can't imagine how frustrating and heartbreaking that must have been for you.
Right. And it wasn't heartbreaking immediately because it did make it easier to concentrate longer and to struggle longer. And I accomplished things I hadn't been able to accomplish before. So for a few years, I was riding this high of, I've solved it. This is it. It's happening. But then after a while, especially during COVID, when we all had a lot of time to be at home
Mhm.
and think about, what we're struggling with and not struggling with, I realized, wait, I am still having the same issues with understanding forms, understanding unfamiliar websites, unfamiliar
Yeah.
timetables, all of the same sorts of scenarios like instruction manuals. And that is a very hard thing to explain to people. It's a very hard thing for you to understand yourself, because if you
Hmm.
say, oh, I can't read instruction manuals, that makes no sense to people who know that you read books. And it doesn't even make sense to yourself. You think, well, I read books. So what am I saying when I say that I can't read instruction manuals? But somehow it just sort of jams the brain and
Sorry,
doesn't
that's
allow the information to come through.
mm-hmm. Sorry, barking. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry.
And more to your point about vision, I love it that you use the example of acuity, because you're talking about visual acuity, whether someone is
Hmm.
20/20 or not. I'm a big fan of the social model of disability out of the UK, which says that people are not themselves the problem. It is society that is not designed for everyone that disables people, that people
Yep.
are actually whole as we are. And we have an example of how the social model of disability works better for society, and that is vision. Our visual acuity. Our society believes that everyone deserves glasses, whether you're poor or rich. There are programs out there that will make sure that you have at least one pair of glasses that is the right prescription to bring you as close to 20/20 as possible. And we assume that everyone has that right to be able to work and go to school and compete in our general system in life. And I'm sure that all of us know a lot of people who have achieved great things that are blind as bats when they are not wearing their glasses. And
Yep.
what if we treated glasses the same way that vision therapy is treated? What if we said, that's just the breaks. You weren't born with good eyes. So, just got to struggle. Everyone struggles. It's okay. Get out there, compete.
Yeah.
Some people really can't see more than a few feet in front of them. And they feel entitled to glasses, and everyone agrees with them that, yes, they have a right to expect that they would have glasses. So I also think that adults should feel entitled to have vision therapy covered by insurance. It's so important to your quality of life, and vision disorders often travels in families just like ADHD. So the idea that a child needs to be covered, but not the adults that take care of the child,
Yeah, right. It's
doesn't make a lot of sense. So it's really time for our insurance industry to catch up. And it's also time for optometrists everywhere to start recommending that patients try vision therapy before they go to a surgeon.
yeah, I think that's a very good point.
And the other point that I don't want to miss is that if you are a person who has ADHD and vision disorders, and you are prescribed ADHD medicine, then your medicine is probably going to help you. And then you just need to get vision therapy as well. But you actually need that medicine, and it helps you because ADHD is relative to dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain. But imagine how many people might be out there whose dopamine and norepinephrine levels are fine, but they've been misdiagnosed. They have underlying vision disorders that have been misdiagnosed as ADHD, and then they're on a
stimulants, which is not good.
a controlled substance that the brain does not need.
Yeah.
So I really want to get the word out to everyone to try to get a comprehensive vision exam and either rule it out or identify it, and then pursue vision therapy and help to spread the word that vision therapy should be covered by insurance.
I'm going to be, what's really interesting for me is I can't wait to see like what goes on, where your ADHD symptoms land once you're done with the vision therapy. Because you and I have talked and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I also have ADHD too. Because the vision stuff doesn't usually cause time blindness, for example, right? So I'll be curious to see like where, I mean, it's probably going to feel a whole lot easier once you get that part done. But I'm very curious to see where you're going to end up with that. So, so to everybody watching, if you are somebody who was diagnosed with ADHD, you've done medication and all the other things to do, and you're still really struggling with distractibility, focus and concentration, et cetera, especially when reading, then you may want to consider getting this looked at. If you go to my website, if you go to joryhoulihan.com/vision-ADHD, I have links for information, including where Noël was assessed here in the Chicagoland area and where she does her treatment here, and a link to the College of Optometrists in Vision Development, where you can learn more and you may be able to find somebody who can help you in your area. Also, Noël does have a GoFundMe to raise money for her vision therapy and to help her continue to get the word out. So, and at her GoFundMe page, you can learn more about vision disorders and vision therapy, and it includes vision simulators, which is kind of cool.
Right.
And that's also on my website. So supporters of her GoFundMe campaign will be able to accompany Noelle on her journey through the process as she shares videos and other information and updates along the way. So you can learn with her over the course of her therapy in the upcoming months. And so if you are also so inclined, you can also help spread the word by sharing her GoFundMe link on social media with the hashtag Vision Therapy for Noelle, and by sharing directly with others in your life who have ADHD or suspect that they have it. And I wanted to share this with you guys because, first of all, I found this fascinating. I had never heard of this before, and I just was like blown away by her story. And I wanted to help her get the word out, and possibly help some members in this group who may need to know about this. So now, at the same time, I don't want everyone to like panic and think they have a vision disorder. But if this resonates with you, it may be something that you want to consider looking into. So if you have questions, I've been kind of going back to our page and we don't have any questions at this point. But if you do end up having some questions, put them in the comments and add the hashtag Vision Therapy for Noelle at the end of it so that Noelle will see them and then she can come in and answer your questions about this. And then if we see sort of a trend in terms of questions that are getting asked, I may ask Noelle to come back and expand on those questions. I'm so appreciative of Noelle for agreeing to do this interview and educating all of us on what this is. So thank you so much again, Noelle, for coming and doing such a great job in explaining this. And I'm so happy that you're finally getting answers to what you need, so that you can start really taking good care of yourself. And I hope that this helps, even if it's just, a couple members of this group, that would be amazing. So again, you can go to joryhoulihan.com/vision-ADHD. I will put that in the comments as well. For more information. The replay will be there as well. So if you have family or friends who are not in this group, but would like to learn more, you can send them there as well for the replay of this. So Noelle, is there anything else that you want people to know before we sign off?
I just wanted to say thank you so much. And I appreciate any and all support for the GoFundMe. No donation is too small, truly. And all the help possible in spreading the word among anyone you know with ADHD, with vision disorders, or even anyone who suspects they might have ADHD because maybe they have a vision disorder. And I will answer any questions that I find in the comments to the post as I can. So if I don't get back to you right away, just know that I will see it and I will get back to you and answer it as best I can. And I'd be happy to come back if the group ends up having a lot of questions about a particular area. So I hope this helps someone out there. I just don't want anyone else to go through what I've gone through for the last 7 years, thinking that I had the complete answer and then finding out that there was something else going on. So I hope.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah, I hope this helps people too. So thank you again for coming on. And for those of you in the group who have questions, put them in the comment section. And I will be back on next Tuesday at our usual time at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time for Topic Tuesday. And everybody have a great week. Thank you.